Hello, everybody. So, to start out with, I'm just taking some white and I'm going to block in the candle flame and the candle drips. Since I need those to be light colored, I'm going to go ahead and block those in since my rock is black. And I'm using a number 3 Royal and Langnickel round brush. And now I'm blocking in the candle. And you can see where I don't go all the way, since I'm doing this all in white, I don't go all the way to like where the drips are. I leave a little bit of the black showing. This way I don't lose my design. And that part's going to be shadowed anyway, so the black kind of just helps with that effect by leaving it this way. And we're going to go over this again in with another layer of paint. And I'm using Liquitex Basics, and they're kind of translucent, so I have to go over this in several layers. I think it's 2 layers total in order to cover all the black. So now I'm taking some Hooker's Green, and we're going to do the leaves of the holly bushes, or And I did add a little bit of white to lighten up the green a little. And I'm just going to block these in. And then I lightened up the color a little bit more. Whenever you have a leaf that overlaps another leaf, you want to change the color. You want the bottom leaf to be a little bit darker than the top leaf. So you can see how I've lightened this one up just a little bit more so that when it goes over that leaf on the right, you can see the top leaf. I lightened up that leaf on the left just a little bit more so there's more of a color differential between the two. I'm sorry my energy level is so low. I'm still trying to recover from whatever I have had. I don't think it was the flu, but I've had some kind of cold or upper respiratory infection or something. Um, we leave for our honeymoon cruise Saturday. This is Monday. We leave Saturday. So I'm trying to do everything I can to stay well rested and not relapse. I would like to be healthy on our cruise. So now I'm taking some phthalo green. Hooker's green is more of a yellow green, so it's more of a warmer green. And phthalo green is more blue, so it would be called a colder green. And I wanted a different color for like the pine needle sprigs that I'm painting in now. So I went with a bluer green. But you could use whatever color greens you want. And I'm using my detailed brush, the Triple Lot from Holotap, which I do have linked to the Amazon page where I got mine down in the description. So now I'm taking some red and I'm going to do the berries. Now I'm taking yellow ochre and a little bit of white and some water, and you can see I'm thinning it down, meaning I'm going to turn it into a glaze. Normally you don't glaze with white because white is so opaque it's hard to glaze with it. But I do it even though I know it's going to make everything kind of a foggy color, I guess. But in this situation, it doesn't matter. But thinning it down just makes it easier to move it around on the rock, if that makes any sense. These areas that I'm painting are very small, so painting with a glaze, just makes it easier to kind of stay in the lines. And you see I'm darkening the color as I go. I'm doing this kind of in layers and just darkening. And this is my number 3 Royal and Langnickel round brush again. Now we're adding the yellow ochre to the flame. And then I added a little yellow, yellow ochre and red to make an orange for the bottom of the flame. Now this is a lemon yellow, so it's a much brighter yellow. And I'm actually going to end up thinning this down into a glaze, and then I'm going to glaze that over on top of the yellow ochre and the orange. Now we're mixing the hunter's green and the yellow for the veins. I'm actually double loading my brush here, and I do it a couple of times and then I stop because that can be tricky for kind of artists that aren't quite as advanced. So I go back and I just single load the brush. And I'm kind of shading as I go a little bit. And the veins on the holly leaves are pretty pronounced. And there's a part of the candle I didn't paint in. So, I'm sorry. I was saying that the veins are very pronounced on these leaves. So you're going to want to shadow around the veins. And you're going to see how I do that here in a minute. You see I'm glazing. I've turned all this into glazes, and I'm using glazes to do all of this. You see how I'm darkening the area between the veins. So I'm darkening the area between the veins and then going and hitting a highlight in kind of the wide part of the V of that the veins create. And I glazed over some green over that whole leaf to tone down the yellow a little bit. So here I'm doing the highlight, and this is an aggressive highlight here where like that leaf is picking up some of the yellow from the candle flame. And I'm adding highlights to this other one as well. So now I've got some black. This is Mars black, and I've turned it into a glaze. And now I'm going to shadow between the leaves to separate them more. And I'm using, this is the number 3 Royal and Langnickel again. I'm going down the middle of the leaf And then let's see, yeah, around the leaf if there's anything below it, because I'll have to create a separation between the two. Around the berries, kind of by the veins a little bit. Now this goes on and then it's going to dry a little lighter, so there will be a little bit of color shift when you do a glaze. So sometimes you may have to go in and do several coats if you want it to be really dark. Now we're going to add some shadows underneath the drips, the candle wax drips. You'll see I dab my finger in the paint a lot, and that's just taking off some of the color. So if I think that it's too dark, I'll hit it with my finger while it's still wet, and it'll kind of soften it up a little bit, lighten it. And this is how I would paint this if you didn't want to outline everything. I'm going to go in and trap my whole design in black. But if you don't want to, then just do the shading and then stop. Some people like it trapped, some people don't. So I try to color in the whole rock the way I would if I wasn't going to trap it, and then trap it at the very end. And now I'm going in and creating the glow around the candle. And I do this by watering down I believe this was the lemon yellow, watering that paint down pretty good, turning it into a glaze. And, glazes dry darker, like they won't be as bright when it dries. So it's going to take several coats, several layers. You see how I kind of just scrub it onto the rock? Because I want it to have that misty look to it, like a foggy look, like a like a glow, but kind of like, I don't want it to look solid. So I added a little of the yellow ochre to it to darken it up. And you see how it goes on pretty bright, and then the color really fades as it dries. So now I'm taking the lemon yellow and going around the outer edge. I want the outer ring to be brighter than the inner ring. No, and Harley just woke up. And then I didn't let my paint dry. You can see where I've got kind of this black spot on the left hand side. I didn't let that layer dry well enough before I started the next layer, so it lifted the paint. So when you do that, you have to let it dry, leave it alone. And you're going to see I'm going to paint around it a little bit. And then I'm finally, once it's dry, I'm going to go over it. And there, I was able to cover that. Oh, and now I just got off screen. I think I do that a couple of times here towards the end, and I apologize for that. My tray has worked its way over to the left somehow. See how I'm covering in that area that I had lifted the paint? You can recover from that. You just have to let it dry very well, and then you go in and just keep layering paint in that one section, and it'll finally start looking like the rest. And I'm just scrumbling, what they call scrumbling it in. It's kind of like scrubbing it. I'm kind of scrubbing with my paintbrush. Now I've realized that I didn't paint in this pine needle sprig here. So we'll go in and do that. Now I'm adding a little white, and I'm going to lighten it up, and then I'm going to go over just to add some highlights, just to add dimension to it, to each of these little pine sprigs. So now I've taken, this is just some white. Oh, okay. And I'm going to go over the candle drip with a little bit of white just to brighten it up a little bit. Kind of highlighting these areas. I'm just cleaning up my edges with this detailed round brush. And adding some highlights. Excuse me, adding highlights to the curves of the candle. And one thing I realized I didn't do was I didn't put a highlight on the red berries. So what I would do if I were you is take a little bit of white, add it to the red to make a little pink, and I would just swipe a little bit of paint across each of those berries You could also take yellow and make it more of an orange if you wanted it to look more like a glow from the flame. That might even be better. Make it more of an orange color and just do a swipe of paint on each of those berries to reflect the light of the flame. So now I'm taking water and I'm just going over my whole rock and then wiping the. This is getting rid of the uh, charcoal pencil. So I'm just trying to clean up all my pencil lines. So now I'm kind of cleaning up my berries a little bit. Now I'm going to take the Liquitex black airbrush paint and now I'm going to trap my design.